Alright, what's going on, people? Today I just want to do a little thing on the kernel. A lot of people think the kernel is some mysterious thing, and you know, it's really not that bad. And for me, I'm going to let's see if I get some highlighting. I installed a LFS machine as a server, and I'm missing some stuff. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and try to get my Ethernet going and install some other drivers and stuff like that that I didn't install while I was building it. Now for me, I'd rather get the machine up and booting, and then I can go back. This is considered to me like a customization thing. When I'm doing my LFS, I really don't like to play too much around with, you know, looking up stuff and, you know, what's the best thing to do and this and that. Instead, I'd rather just get a base system, get it running. If I get errors, that's okay, at least it runs, especially with the kernel, because you can always go back and compile your kernel at any other time, it doesn't matter. So, but for this, it's a rather old kernel, 2.6.27. It's just what I want to put on it for right now. It's really not a big deal. So, what I'm going to do is I need to find, this is in a CH root machine here, okay? And what I want to do is, I know I'm missing some Ethernet stuff, so the first thing I really want to do is list out, I can't do it from this side. Let's say something like list PCI. Okay. This PCI. And right here it's going to show us what is this? Host bridge, PCI bridge. Okay. There's a 56K modem in the machine, so that's that. That's the driver info and everything for that. Firewire, okay. IDE, that's my RAID controller. I guess that's on the board. And there's another controller here, right? But what I want to look for is, I want to look for this here and see what's going on with this. It's my Ethernet controller, and I can't get my Ethernet up. And what I did was I looked in the kernel and found out that, you know, I don't have support. I say bridge, okay, and let's say something like audio controller. That's the audio controller driver info and VGA stuff. Alright, cool. So that's what you can do with list PCI. Okay. Another thing is, when I go, I'm going to CH root into my machine. This is off of a live CD, but I already did the CH root commands to jump in it, and I'm already mounted, bound, and all that other stuff. So that's it's very important. If you're doing this from a live CD, you definitely want to make sure you mount your machine, you mount your drive, you want to bind your device folders, mount all your proc, sys, and tempfs, and everything else you can to do that. You'll have to look that up for the specific OS. So I'm in it, and if I cat out my boot config for my kernel, okay, this is what we have here. Now what I did was I already made up a list. Actually, I should do this other stuff first for you. Let's say something like, you can say list PCI, okay, and that shows us our data there. Now, how do we know if we have it? What you're going to do is you're going to get false errors if you try to see if you have something mounted now. Okay, like for instance here, I don't have a list PCI command here. I have a mod probe, Okay, I can probe for modules. Mod probe, I think it was L. No, it's not it. I think L is the one, but since I'm CH rooted and everything else like that, I could have some problems there. So that's not going to happen for me. And if I do mod probe and list modules and all that other stuff, it's going to come off the live CD. It's not necessarily going to come off the running system. Okay. How about list mod? Same thing. Proc is not. I don't think proc is mounted. Well, proc is mounted, but I can't read it. Okay. So you may run into problems if you're CH rooted into a machine like that. The other thing is too, you can always just say cat out boot config, okay, and say less. Now, I already did a PCI, list PCI and everything else. I moved it over to another machine so I can read it behind the what I'm doing here. Okay, so let's say cat host PCI. Yeah, God. PCI. Okay, and for instance right here, now we kind of have like a, let's say a batter board where you can just flip back and forth and look for what you need. And in this instance here, I want to look for something like BT6110, maybe Rhine 2, something like that. Or better yet, all these here, let's just look for VIA. Okay. And if I cat this out, I can also say search for, down at the bottom, I don't know if you can see that, that's a // let's search for VIA. Okay, and it is case sensitive. So let's do that. Or better yet, I can just say grep for VIA. Grep for, say, VIA less. Okay. And hopefully some of this stuff here will just tip you off, okay, to what you need, if whatever. Let me see here, config, this is not set. This is not important. Config block via 826XX or 82CXX, let's see. 82XX. Might not be a bad idea to add that stuff. Okay. Via Rhine is not set, and if you can see back over here, this is another thing, via Rhine, you know. So let's see, via 82X modem is not set. Alright, so we kind of have a good idea what's going on. Kind of have a good idea. Also too, on the host side, if you were to say something like list mod over here, it'll show you your modules that are loaded. Now these are in this case, these are loaded from the live CD. The live CD is going to have ample modules and everything else like that that you would need. Well, an install CD would have all the other modules and everything else that you would need. So pretty much, the install CD is supposed to, if it runs in live, it's supposed to say, you know, load all the modules, and whatever module you need will be loaded. The other ones will be skipped, but at least that support is compiled into that live CD. Okay, and that's exactly what it is here. On, for instance, my OS, it's a minimal, so I don't want to load a whole bunch of crap and modules and everything else like that, you know, or do a default module or anything else like that where it would load everything. That's not really what I want to do. So some things will get skipped that way. And with a list mod here, we can see here it loaded a module VA Rhine. Okay, ag PG part PGA and via ag, whatever that is. I could look it up, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to look for it. Now, that's one way you can do it. You can also say something like list mod, I think. No. What's the other one, man? Mod probe. You can also say mod probe, okay? Mod probe L is going to give you a list of all the modules that are currently loaded. I think that's what it is. All these modules are they currently loaded? That's a good question. Not that they're currently loaded, but they're currently available, I think it is. That's what it is, yeah. Well, if they're currently available, whatever you need will get loaded. So these are available that are compiled into this kernel on this CD. That's how it goes. And whatever you need will get picked out of this. So for instance, when you do something like, say, list mod, and it's only going to show these here. These are loaded. Okay. The rest of them are here, but they're available. Okay, so that's that. That's that. So we know what we kind of want. We need VA Rhine, all that other stuff. Let's jump right into it. Let's say something. CH root backing. And let's go ahead into where I have my kernel. And what you want to do is, if you get a new kernel, like, you know, out there somewhere, you want to get your kernel with a tar xvf and then say your kernel. In my case it would be this, okay? And then you want to extract it. After you extract it, you want to jump into it. That's what we're going to do. Okay, good deal. Now let's go ahead and we're going to say make mr proper first. What this is going to do is it's going to get rid of any old stale files that may be laying around, any old config files, or maybe some old configurations. Maybe you made a menu and you screwed up or something else like that. You can do that to clean it so you have a clean environment. You don't have anything laying in the background, because there is stuff in the background here. See all these dots? That's directories, but you know, you got dot ignore, git ignore, blah blah. But after you get done actually making your kernel or going through the configuration part of this, you're going to be left with a .config file. And that .config file, if it was a failed config file, you could be reading off of that, and it's a good idea just to make everything clean. So now we did that. Make mr proper, and we want to say make menu config. Okay, and this is going to make me a menu with boxes. And I personally really don't like it so much like this, but I'm just picky, that's all. And let's go toward the kernel. General setup. So your kernel config support, CPU set, init RAM FS source, blah blah, new. This is a 2.6.1627, so if you do a 3.12, you're definitely going to see some differences, but the idea is all the same. Okay, loadable module support, module unloading, I'm cool. Another thing is too, when you run this, it's going to, if you have, maybe I shouldn't say that, but a lot of these things are already checked off for you. Okay, some of them aren't, but like this here, enable module or enable loadable module support. Yeah, okay, that's checked. Some of the core things would be checked. Block layer, IO scheduler. Some of the, see, IO scheduling here, this is all going to be checked for you. Let's pick up something here. A lot of stuff you have to worry about is maybe your networking and device drivers. A lot of stuff will not be checked. Okay, you see a lot of this stuff here is not checked. If I wanted Bluetooth, I would click that. Okay, now the difference between a module and a built-in, right? Module and a built-in, you really can't see a built-in when it's running. I guess you could, but you can see modules better when they're running, and you can drop modules when they're running. Okay, so if a module crashes, fails, or something else like that, it'll just fall out or do whatever. Right? And you can also load modules. Okay, but the problem is with modules, I think they take a little longer for the OS to boot. And it's not really that much, but if you have a all module config, then I'm really screwing this module thing up. You guys look that up. Look that up. Device drivers. Okay. A lot of people get intimidated by all this stuff here, and I don't blame them either, because some of it looks a little wild. Generic device drivers, so many descending folders, etc. You know, it's parallel ports. Okay, we don't need any of that. Where am I at? You can look at the top here and you can see, you know, you're in your block device drivers. So I do want loopback support, and I'm going to load that. I'm not going to put it in as a module, but I'm going to put it in as a in the kernel, not to be loaded as a module. Let's say network block device support. Right. RAM disk support. No, I'm not going to do any of that. I don't have a RAM disk yet. I really don't know if I want one for that particular machine. Let's see. Don't need any scuzzies. Old CD-ROM drivers, etc. Okay. Do you need any of that? That is worth to go. Yeah. I'm with my mic once again. Oh man. Let's say firewire support. Okay, now I do have firewire. I don't have anything else that takes firewire. So it's in. A lot of these menus too will drop open. Okay, so you can watch that. Make sure, and you just hit exit to go back one. If you hit exit again, you're going to pop out. The more you hit exit, the more you'll pop out until finally it says, "Do you want to save this config? Yes or no?" Okay, i20 device. I don't really know what that is. That's the other thing too. You really don't have to know what everything is in here. A lot of the things that will, if your system's running, you have all the essentials to make it run. Okay. A lot of the things that you need will be here. But a lot of the things, like say wireless or Ethernet or anything else like that, well, you won't have them. Okay. And this is a very minimal kernel. And a lot of times, a lot of people don't have to install anything like I do. A lot of times people don't have to install a bazillion drivers or anything else like that, because they're already picked up and they're already in with that kernel. And when you installed it from the live CD, it picks all that stuff for you, or it'll default config for you, or it'll send you a whole bunch of modules. But the other problem is you'll have a whole bunch of support for things that you'll never need. Okay, and it's slowed down your system and resources and blah blah blah. So, but this is a very minimal kernel, so a lot of the stuff you won't see checked here. Okay, and I like to keep it minimal, like this here, Sony Vega Veo programmable IO stuff. That would be in a default kernel from a distro or down from the pipe or something else like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't have a Sony, so why? Yeah. Let's go, and we'll say something like bus options, PCI bus. It's not checked. I'm okay right now. It's not really what I'm looking for. I'll just leave that default. PCI Express. I have slots, but I don't really have anything in them, so I'm okay. I can always come back. I'd like to keep it as minimal as possible. Hey, you'll be compiling a kernel a few times, but hey, what's the big deal? So let's say power management. I don't need any power management features here. CPU scaling, advanced power management. This is actually, this here is I think one of the things I had to do for my LFS 7.3. I wanted to be able to read the battery, and I had to come in here and do some stuff like that, but it's cool. Let's see. Executables, leave them like that. Networking is a good idea. Amateur radio support, no. Bluetooth, if you have Bluetooth, it would not hurt to add something like that. Network options. A lot of these things here I could add. I'm not going to right now. It's not really what I need. Ethernet bridging, I really don't need that. I don't need any of this stuff here. Apple Talk, blah. Let's go on a RAN router. No. It's not a wireless machine that I'm doing, so I don't need any of that. I'm not running IPv6, so I don't need that. I don't need any of this stuff here. It always pays to do your homework, but right now I don't need any of that stuff. A general idea of what it is, and if I really needed it, it would be sorted in, and if not, if I have a problem with trying to get something, then I'll just have to do the research, and if I need to add it, I'll add it. Generic drivers. Firmware, it's good. Don't mess, I don't need that. Parallel port support. No. Plug and plays. Block devices, I've done that. Let's see. In here somewhere, I think there's what I need. What is it? ID chipsets. Here we go. One here. I'm gonna load. Actually, do I want to build in or module? The more build-ins you have, the more stuff you have in your kernel in general, the longer it's going to take, and the less efficient it will be. If it's very small, then that's okay. If you really don't care, that's okay too. But if you want a minimal system and a specific system, the more that you add that you don't need, it's going to compensate somewhere else down the road. Okay. Now, if you load it as a module or versus a built-in, modules, a lot of stuff during boot time, if you run them as modules, they either don't work, and if they need to be there at that present time, because modules get loaded second. Okay, so adding your wireless or anything else like that will be a good idea to run maybe as a module. And a module too, you can also play with modules a little bit. You can down modules, you can modify modules because, well, the modules. With a built-in, you actually can't get into the kernel as easy as you could with a module. So build-ins take a little bit longer time, but if you're definitely sure you're going to need that, like say, I don't know, PCI DMA by default when available, I don't know, you know, then, or your screen or something else like that, then put that in the kernel. But little things like drivers, not really intense drivers, are not something that you really need to load, you know, like a BIOS or anything, you know, chipset or something, then you're okay. So, but for this one here, this is chipset support for, let's see, VI82CXX. I know I have VI something up here I saw. And you know, it's close enough. VI Tech. This is all VI Tech back here, so this is all VI Tech. I'm going to take this right here. Alright? And I could actually just run it as a module, but I'm not going to. I want that in. Because I really hate to say list mod and I see a whole slop of modules come out. And it's just a preference. Other ID chipset support. Let's see what's in there. A little bit of stuff. I don't need any of this stuff. I'm okay. Okay. That looks good. And nothing in here. I don't need nothing in there. RAID and LVMs, I don't need any of that. Fusion. I don't know what that is. Firewire support. I'm okay. Network device support. Okay, let's say something like here. I'm going to click this, and this drops down a whole menu here. This is Ethernet 10 to 100 megabit Ethernet. Now, I really don't know if I have 10, 100, whatever it is. Actually, can I figure it out? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go down here and look for just anything that looks resembling what I may need. I know, for instance, I'm not going to need a Realtek because I don't have anything Realtek back here in my list PCI. Okay, so that's a direct giveaway. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to enable that as built-in. And three comms, stuff like that. Okay. Generic media. Yeah. I'm going to say exit, and then go to the next one here, and I can say, look in here, via velocity support. I don't know what that is, but it would not hurt to actually put it in. Okay. Now it would actually be better to put this in as a module, but I'm not going to. Just put it built in. Modules too. I don't think you get. I need to stop talking about built-ins versus modules. Realtek 8169. No, I think that's on this machine actually, on my laptop. Broadcom support. Don't need any of that. Okay. And that looks like that's all for that. Token ring devices, wireless LAN, wireless interfaces. I don't have, or wide area network interface support. I don't know. I don't know what that is. So let's see. Fiber channel. Okay. Don't need that. Telephony stuff. Input devices. I don't have a joystick. You see here, mouse. Mouse is already in there. You know what I mean? So it's stuff like that that you already have inside of your machine. Screen stuff will already be loaded into the kernel. I mean, you could turn this off, yes, but a lot of the core things that get the machine up and running will be here. Let's see, no. Okay. Character devices. See if you see any drivers in here. Here we go. VIA chipset support. I'll add that because I have a lot of VIA stuff, but I don't have any Radeon, ATI, Intel stuff. So okay. No TI stuff, Texas Instruments. Okay. And let's see, I2C. I don't know. I'm really not sure what that is either. One wire bus. I have no idea what that is. Let's say hardware monitoring. I don't have any IBM stuff like that. Don't need any of that. Miscellaneous devices. No, those aren't very. Those aren't. There aren't enough miscellaneous devices there for me to pick any of them. Multimedia capabilities. I can't do that. Multimedia devices, video. If you wanted video for Linux, digital video broadcasting devices, that's what you could do. Graphics. Support for frame buffer. Yes, I want support for frame buffer. Great idea. I did not think about that. Video mode handling. Actually, I should. Logo configuration? Sure. Why, Yes, I want a logo. Be nice to see something boot up. Okay. Backlight, nah. Virtual frame buffer support, only for testing. Really don't want any test stuff in here. Console display support. Real fan of frame buffer. Actually, I shouldn't really get too carried away because I really don't need it that much, but I am trying to accomplish something as far as get my Ethernet going, so I'm just gonna back out. Sound is a good thing to have. And I'll need this at one point in time. I can actually add some stuff. Here's my sound controller and base modems. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to add that anyway because of views. Okay. USB devices. No. ISA devices. No. Let's see, Turtle Beach. Oh. It's good. Open sound. Depracticated means old. And it's a 2003 kernel, so old is pretty old. And this USB support. I don't have anything in here really off the top of my head I can say I want to put in. Okay. Let's see, what is that? I think I know what that is. Ah, I know what that is. Yes, I do know what that is. Finiband. Okay. Cool. File systems. Yeah, ext2 is cool. Let's add all that stuff there. And two, I'll show you something else in a few, but it's pretty interesting. We'll get to it. CD-ROM, DVDs, NTFS file system support. Do I have anything in NTFS? And why would I do anything in NTFS? I don't know. I don't want it. Okay. Miscellaneous file systems. Amiga, Apple, all that stuff. BOS, UFS. Any HFS? I don't see any HFS in this one. NFS file system support. I don't have any of that. Native languages. Okay. That's cool. Instrumentation support. I don't need anything extra. Kernel hacking. Really don't show timing information about print keys. It's cool if you're dev and stuff. Security. And library routines. Okay, cool. Cool deal. So, I don't know if I have all my stuff. I'm going to exit it, and this will save. Okay? Now, if you list this out, see, nothing's really changed. But when you actually save that file, what happens is it'll create something else. You have a .config right here. Okay, kconfig. The .config is actually what gets made into, when you're doing your kernel, the .config actually gets made into, well, you have to copy that. For instance, for me, if I say cat boot config, it's this config file right here. If I list it out, this is what we get. Okay, actually this is a textual version of what we just did on the other side. For me, it's a pain in the butt really to look at menu screens and drop down menus. It takes way too much time, I think. Okay, but with this here, if we say cat something this out, and let's grep for VIA, right? This is going to show me all the drivers that I need that are like this here, okay, or a better approximation anyway, than having to actually go hunt through several drop-down menus and everything else like that. Okay, this is what I actually like to do the best right here. And you can see in my old kernel, none of the VIA stuff is set. None of it is set. Okay, VIA Rhine's not set. None of this stuff is set. So no wonder why my net really doesn't work. Okay, that's in my old kernel. When I cat out my boot config, in my boot config, that's what it is in my old kernel. Okay, so now if I cat out .config, I say less, this is all the options that I just selected on the other side over there. Okay, also too, if you cat out the readme, with less or something, if you cat out the readme, it'll actually tell you how to install a kernel. Okay, so make sure you have no stale O files around, blah blah blah, dependencies laying around. You know, this is why we said, you know, make mr proper. Get rid of that stuff. Tell you if you want to store the kernel, everything else like that. And there's also alternative menu or alternative ways to do a menu. Okay, you can say make menu config, which the last one we just did. Make xconfig. I haven't done either of these. Qt, a GTK based configuration tool. Make old config will make your old config. Default all questions based on the contents of your, okay. And if you wanted to make an old config, what you would have to do is, you would have to go ahead and you'd copy out, you'd copy this, your old boot config, right? You would copy that to a .config file. A .config file, okay, in this folder though. Okay, and then you could go ahead and modify that and then just run make old config and you're good to go. So you actually bypass the menu altogether to do that. Make old config, copying the kernel. There's no silent old config in there? Oh yeah, silent old config. Okay. Make silent old config. It does that without any verbose questioning, blah blah. Okay. It teaches you how to install the kernel, compiling. Okay. Make modules, install. Okay. Definitely the README is something good to look at. Now I'm going to say cat config. Actually, I'm going to say cat config, and let me grep for VIA. Let's see if I missed anything. It's a lot easier to do this way, I think. Okay. So, if you can remember my old config I just ran, I didn't have any of this stuff set here. But in the new one here, there's some stuff set, and I actually want to set some more. It's all in one location here for me. DRM VIA, I don't know. Okay, it's cool. Cool deal. So now I can also say something like vim config, and give me a little bit of menu highlight. And what you can do with this is here, instead of looking through that menu where you had to click down to code maturity options and look through that, or general setup, and then you go down through the checkboxes. These are all like your drop downs inside of here. Buildable module support, I/O schedules, processor type and features, blah blah blah. So all your stuff. Your next selection, your maybe next drop down menu would be firmware drivers. Okay, and if you click that, then all this stuff here will open up, and then you get to go click through them. All right, but from here it's a little easier for me. It's a little easier for me. You can always say something like 2:// you're going to search for. Let's say search for, this is case sensitive, search for VIA. Okay, you can see my cursor blinking here. VIA and MVIC3. I don't know what that is for, but I'm looking here. If you look up a little bit, looks like this might be for a processor. Okay, so I really don't think that it's not going to have to deal with my Ethernet. Now you can hit the letter N as in November, okay, and it'll jump down to the next VIA. Okay, config block device. This is one of my block devices I need. It's always good to look up a little bit and down a little bit. For one, to see where you are. Two, to see what else you may need. Okay, that's set. Next, new for next, config SCSI, SATA. I don't think I need that. Hit N for next. Via Rhine, yes. Like I said again, you want to look, a little up and a little down to see what's going on. I know the 8193.2 is a wireless. Actually, is it wireless? No, it's wire. It's Ethernet. So I know I may be in the right location. So my config for via Rhine, that's what I need. And I see another via Rhine here. I'm just going to take out the comment, and I can just say equals yes, and now I installed that. If I said equals M as in module, then I would have put it in as a module. Let's go to the next via. Velocity, okay. AGP, okay. DRM, via not set. Oh, this is F-tape floppy device drivers. I don't need any of this stuff. I don't have a floppy in there. This is USB support, I think, just by the name. Oh no, this is sound, sorry. And I do need these. Okay. And it looks like I looped back on myself. So now I'm done with that. And you can scroll all the way through this or all the way up, blah blah blah. Actually this isn't too bad. A little kernel. It's an older kernel, but a lot of these, it's not that bad. A lot of the newer kernels are so long. They have so many options. There's nothing wrong with options, but if you don't need them, why? Okay. Alright. Now let's see. I gripped for that. Let's look for something, I don't know, a little bit more specific. Maybe Rhine. We'll say Rhine 2. Search for Rhine. Okay, and you see here Rhine comes up. Next, and if you look at the bottom of the screen here, hit search bottom, continue to top. Okay, means that there's no more instances of that in there. How about if I search for, let's search for via again. I hit N for next, N for next, N for next. Say if I skip something, I want to go back up, hit Shift N and you would go back up. Okay? You see my cursor flopping around up there? Okay? That's pretty cool. You run, let's say, if we even search for something like, say, I don't know, video. Don't forget it is case sensitive. Let's say vid. Okay. NVIDIA, vid, all this other stuff. You don't need any of that. Config frame buffer. Here we go with the frame buffer question again. I actually just might add this, but I don't know what frame buffer I need. BU Vesa. I don't know, I'm gonna have to skip this one. I want frame buffer, but ISA devices. You can see the similarity of the menu compared to this as far as the placement of what you need to look for. USB support, you know, the options of drop down menus with PCI devices, the little, you know, the pre-menu before you hit the big menu to select the stuff. Okay, so it's all right here, and I think it's a lot easier. I think that's all I want to add. I'm not sure. It's always a good idea just to look around. You know, DOS FAT file systems for NTFS, if you want to add that, you know. Proc. Okay, so I think that's all I want to do to that. Okay, now I just say right quit, and basically my config file is ready to go. So now I can say make and make modules _ install. And if I run this, it'll build my kernel, and then the only other thing I have to do is just copy out my system map, my kernel image, and my config file. I'm ready to go. Now if you're not sure how to do any of that, I'm not going to make a video about that, but if you're not sure how to do any of that, check out some of my other tutorials on Linux from scratch. And it's the basic concept of just taking and copying over your kernel after you're done compiling it. Alright, so just a little tour, nothing special. Have a great day.